Cool. Why is it going to infinity like that?
Oh, because I just had screen. This is recording. All right, we're gonna get started.
Kick it off.
Thanks so much for coming. Like Saturday, I mean, the weather's not the best, but like here to learn Swift, which is awesome. The language has only been out for like 2 months, and the community that's been building, it's just been crazy. Like last meetup I went to, I was teaching Swift. There's about 400 developers all in one room. I've just never seen that when it comes to new language or any meetup in general. So yeah, today we're going to be building this kind of slick timer app, and it's going to be really simple to do an introduction on how to do views, how to do like labels, buttons, and start displaying data with your mobile app. My name is Joe, and I'm a designer, but I also been doing iOS for the past 6 months, and hopefully going to show you from a designer's perspective a little bit about how we go about building iOS apps. And Ben here, he's been an engineer for 15 years. He's worked with companies like Pinterest and Bumble, and he's also been doing iOS for contract and for a bunch of different companies. He's definitely a good guy to talk to. He's going to start us off with Swift Playgrounds, or Xcode's Playgrounds, so you can get a general understanding of how the Swift language works. Let's go ahead.
That's it. You want to kick it off? Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks for the intro, Joe. I started Objective-C about a year ago through this program called CodePath, and it offers, I'm going to give them a little, Michael Ellison is here from CodePath. So if you want to learn more about their classes, they're all free. They're 8 weeks now. You meet twice a week. Class sizes are about this big, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
Great way to learn iOS.
So I'll just chime in a little bit. So I'm coming here from CodePath. Both Ben and Joe are alums of our program, and we just provide free classes, 8 weeks long in iOS and Android development. Our next class starts September 10th, and it's become, I guess, fairly selective for getting in because since it's free classes, then it ends up applying to get in. There's limited amount of space, but the classes are twice a week, 2 hours each week, with around 10 to 15 hours of homework, made for the schedules of people who are currently full-time, and ends up attracting lots of people from Apple and Google and Dropbox and a number of other places. But if anybody's interested in applying and taking a class, then we just offer them for free. So feel free to check it out. CodePath.com.
Yes, I highly recommend the program. So we're all here because of this cool language called Swift. How many of you have some sort of programming background? Just show of hands. Okay, and how many of you, so it's about half, how many of you are just designers without any sort of programming background? Okay, so you all, so that's good. That'll make my job a little bit easier. Okay, so this Swift thing, I'm sure you guys have all heard, Objective-C, it's a pain in the butt to learn, the syntax sucks, compilers suck, all that stuff. So Swift kind of tries to alleviate a lot of those concerns, which is it's super easy to learn with playgrounds and to kind of ease your way in. You don't have to worry about header files anymore. It's meant to run side by side with Objective-C, so you can kind of do both at the same time. So if you know a little bit of Objective-C, you run it with Swift. It's backwards compatible, so you can run apps on iOS 7. This is all kind of not that important to this class today, but it's a great tool to have. I guess that's the bottom line. The syntax is a lot smaller, a lot more concise than Objective-C. And let's see, what else? It will probably, so iOS 8 is probably launching in October. This is a really great opportunity to kind of stay ahead of the curve. We're all learning a technology that is in development. There's a little bit of pain whenever there's a new Xcode beta that comes out. Things change. Your code won't compile anymore. So, but it's awesome to be. I'm personally very excited about this because it seems as though the technology is there, the language is there, it's cool, it's fun, and a lot of opportunities. So I'll just jump right into a little playground. If you guys want to follow along, feel free. What do I want? Get started with the playground. So if you open Xcode, you'll see this get started with a playground. We'll give it a little name like Swift. And it will ask you to put it somewhere. I usually just throw it on the desktop because you can, later on you can just double click on the playground and it'll automatically launch it. One thing I like to do is open up an assistant editor. And what the assistant editor does is this is like your console output. So if you ever want to print anything out or do some like more debugging, the playground will show you what variables are and sort of what's going on. But if you want to see anything else, assistant editor is pretty cool. And I like to move it to the bottom because that's where console usually is. Okay, so the first couple things you'll see is an import of UIKit. This is just like the general framework that iOS is. It gives you stuff like views and controllers and all the basics of the language. Second thing you'll see is this var string equals hello playground. This is kind of just basic declaration here. We're assigning a string to a variable. Pretty straightforward, easy stuff. The nice thing about Swift is that it actually, the compiler knows the types of the objects that you're using. So it knows that this variable is a string without you even telling it anything. So if any of you have written Objective-C, you know that everything is a string or an int or a float or an array, or, you know, when you declare the variable, you have to know what it is. In Swift, it just kind of works. So if you had like, I declare an integer like this, just a standard number, 10. And then I declare like, you know, a floating point number, 3.14, something like that. I think we got some free chairs. Everybody squeezes in a little bit. It's going to be a little tight, but yes, I should be able to.
Right? If you go to Xcode preferences. Presentation. Oh,
Just select everything. Do I have to like do
or
some,
just presentation. That's probably
have to do some
really
magic
huge.
here?
And then you just press, then you can just exit out. See how it's bigger.
How's that? We good? Did it go to sleep? Oh, I thought it turned it off. Okay. Now, the other thing I'm going to talk about is arrays, and this is all. It's okay if you don't quite get everything I'm talking about here. Joe is going to do a great job later on using some of these ideas in our app. So now I'm going to declare an array. An array is just a collection of items. And that array, you'll see on the right-hand side, it's basically A, B, and C. The thing you can do with arrays is you can add elements to them with plus equals. You can do, you know, plus equals B, and then you will see right-hand side my new array has 4 elements in it. If you want to remove something from an array, you call remove at index. You can say remove at index 0. It removes the first element from the array. You can do stuff like remove last. And the really nice thing about Playgrounds and Xcode is the autocomplete will kind of tell you what you can do, what you can't do. And now I'm going to show println is a really easy way. It's kind of like nslog, if any of you know Objective-C. nslog, the equivalent in Swift is println. So if you do a println, you'll see on the console down below, this is where all of your standard out goes to, bottom of the screen there. Let's see. So another cool thing you can do is you can add stuff to strings. So you'll see on the right, now my hello playground says hello playground, add. This is all stuff that you can't do in Objective-C without about 4 lines of code. Very painful. And the other nice thing that Swift does, which it kind of got from scripting languages, is you can actually do string interpolation, which if you use this the parentheses syntax, so you do \parentheses, it will actually insert our first string into our second string dynamically. It should. Does that work?
Slash without the slash. Yeah, without inside.
What did I do wrong? You don't need to escape the second parenthesis.
Yeah. That's weird how it worked.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing that we're going to use later is formatting. Part of our app, we're going to be formatting timers. And this kind of comes from the C world, but if you want to kind of format numbers in a good way, you use a string constructor with a format. And what this does is you can specify padding and number of decimal places, and it will create a number for you. So our original number was 10, and now this new string is 0010, so we just added a bunch of padding to it. And we'll be using this for sort of seconds and minutes later on. You don't really have to know all of these. You can use numbers and floats, and it gets tricky, but not that hard. The other thing we're going to use later on is some basic conditional checks. So our number I, if I is less than 100, so what this does is this will execute this block of code if I is less than 100. And I is less than 100, so that works. And then if we add an else condition, now this code will never get run because I is not greater than 100. Does anybody have any questions? And you can, it's a great way to sort of play with stuff on your own, kind of, figure out how the language works, and you can find a code sample on the web and then kind of put it into your Swift playground, and really super interactive. Anything else you want me to go over?
I think that's most of it. Conditionals, yeah.
Oh, you can also, later on we'll be using dates. Talk about that a little bit. Dates come from NSDate, which is an Objective-C. This will just give you the current time, which is 1:28 p.m. And we'll use those. You can add those to other strings, and we'll get into the details of that a little bit later. Okay.
Actually, I could just move here.
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
Why didn't it execute the if statement in the console? Or it didn't show anything?
So what's happening here is that print line goes to the console, right? So it won't show up here, but the second, you just scroll down. The second print line never executes, so you won't see any output from this guy.
No, I got it.
All right, we're gonna start a brand new project, and this is actually gonna be very, very visual, which is, I think, a really cool thing about building mobile apps in general, particularly with Xcode or iOS. Like on the web, you don't really have like a visual editor, but with Xcode, you're gonna see this is. It'll probably feel familiar if you've done things with Sketch or like Photoshop. So to get started, just go to File at the top, New File or New Project. And then you should see this screen. We're going to select Single View Application and hit Next. We're going to name this like Swift Timer App. And then organization name, organization identifier, those are just unique names. So you can just put in your name or a company name. Make sure language Swift is selected and device is iPhone. And then hit Next. Now you're going to save the file. So what I like to do, since you're always testing and building a lot of apps, is I just create an apps folder in my favorites, and I just like save everything there.
Should we use core data?
No, don't use core data. Cool. So now you should be at this main screen, and I mean, it looks like a lot. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. You have 3 different panels, a bunch of buttons, but I think the mental model to kind of have with this is the left side is just the file structure, the middle is the content, and then the right side are just like attributes, so like things you can do to the main content. So what you want to do to get started is go to the left panel and click main.storyboard. So once you click that, you should see a screen like this. It has this like huge view controller right in the middle. What you want to do is you want to click that, and then see how the right side populated. So that's all the different stuff that you can do to this view controller. And I guess a view controller, a good way to think about it is just like, I'd say it's like a view. So like where you're gonna put. So if you think of like a browser, it's kind of like that window pane of where you're gonna see a bunch of elements and put all the things. So at the top right here, yeah, there's a lot of like weird and crazy icons. You want to go to the far most left one called Show the File Inspector, and click that. Once you're there, then you want to go down to Interface Builder Document and uncheck Use Auto Layout. And it's going to ask you to disable size classes, and you just say yes. So that's going to give you something that's more like the iPhone shape. And the reason why we just disabled auto layout is because Apple's trying to get developers to build out apps for like all screens, and auto layout is a really great tool to do that. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to focus on a single screen for the iPhone 5.
So for example, you could design an app that runs on an iPad and an iPhone, or the new iPhone 6 that may or may not come out. And so you really only have to design one view, but you can set up your auto layout so that it will look good in both. And it gets complicated pretty fast.
Yeah. So now you'll notice at the bottom right, there's this thing called the object library. So you should see things like view controller, navigation controller, and all these others. If you don't, try to click this circle icon here, and that should bring it up. So these are all the different objects that you can drag into like this canvas. By canvas, I mean everything. You can also drag elements into this view controller. So what we're going to start off with is just a simple label. So try to find label. You can also write it at the very bottom in the search. And then to get the label into the view controller, you actually just want to drag it in, like so. Oops. Why is this one? Did I delete the view? So what happened was I accidentally deleted the view, which is where objects go. So if you ran into that error, it's because the view is missing. So once you drag the label in, you see how it highlights? There it is. Now you can double-click it to change the text. And then you can move it around, just like in Photoshop, Sketch, all of those things. Mm-hmm.
How do you get the second left-hand sidebar to show?
So right here at the very bottom, there's this little slide-out panel. Cool. And then this is, a list of all your files. And the hierarchy kind of goes, the thing that's furthest down is what's going to be on top. So now if you click at the top right, Show Attributes Inspector, this is where you can start styling the text. You can make it bigger. You can change the font. So for example, I'm going to change the font by clicking this little T, going to Custom, changing this to Avenir Next, and then increasing the size to like 50 points. Notice how it's squished inside here. So you can just drag these corners to increase the rectangle size. And readjust.
And another nice thing is Xcode will tell you when you're at the center of elements. So as Joe drags that around, you'll see the little guidelines.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to position stuff right in the middle, or with margins.
Yeah.
You could default margins 15.
Yeah.
Are those lines that are appearing Apple's default standards? Can you change your apps?
Like guides?
Grids and guides?
I don't think so. That is Apple's standards, but a really good way to fine-tune your designs is to hold Alt, like you do in Sketch, and then you can see this is 41 pixels. We probably want to make it something more even.
I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, but grayed out.
It's grayed out. Yeah, so that's going to happen a lot where Apple has these default settings called System, and you want to change them to Custom. So you're going to see that with buttons and all sorts of different things. We'll probably run into another one later.
So how do you get those implants?
Which ones? Oh yeah, just hold Alt. So click the element, then hold Alt and then mouse around. So then that says where that element is.
Don't drag. Just
Don't drag. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, that's super crucial for pixel perfect stuff. And then now we're gonna do a button. So just search button, drag it in to the bottom, and there you have a button. So we could name this like start. And then again, you want to do the same thing that you did with the text. If you want to increase the size and stuff like that. Oops. So you kind of saw, like, Xcode can be buggy since it's still in beta. So you saw how I switched from like custom to system and back to custom. I'll probably just go to system. And then it's like things are grayed out. It's 30.
you hit command equal, I think resize the text box or whatever.
Command equal?
Text that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we'll go command equal. Boom. So now it's perfect sized. Okay. So now let's see what this looks like in an iPhone. Just go to the top left where it says like iPad 2 or whatever is there for you, and then select iPhone 5S. Oh, I did? Why is that? Hang on a second. I don't know what it says.
What you did with the simulator?
Oh, there it is. Huh?
What did you run?
Nothing. I was just clicking. Okay, so once you hit iPhone 5S, now you want to click this play button. And that's going to bring up this iOS simulator. And there you go. This is, I mean, it's literally like an app. Like you could compile this on your phone and you could show people and like press the start button. It doesn't really do anything, but this is how the kind of the workflow goes. So I'm going to show you how to put in images. So we're going to go back to our objects library, search for image view. Yeah.
I created the app with for all the versions of iOS, so like iPad, iPhone.
Uh-huh.
So it's not kind of auto-fitting to that screen. The content is not.
Did you?
So this is how the view is.
Okay, so I think you did the auto layout. So if you go to view controller, so click the view controller. It's under view controller scene. And then at the top left, you should see, or right here, file inspector. And then you see this use auto layout. Uncheck that. Yeah.
I get an error, unable to run it.
Oh, rerun that. So close it, close the simulator, and then rerun it. That's another bug with Xcode beta right now.
So when I run my build, the text and the button are not on the same page. Like you have to like scroll down to see the button. So how do you put them on the same?
You might have chose the wrong iPhone size. Or actually, it's 4S, 5. Huh?
I have
iPhone 5S selected?
5S.
Okay, and the text is not showing up at the bottom?
Unable to run app.
Close it and try it again. So one of the last things real quick that I'm going to show you is doing image views. So putting images into your app. You literally just search image view, drag and drop it in, and then now you can apply an image to this. So to get the images for this app, you're gonna want to go to GitHub page. So github.com/Swift time tracker.
Oh, the Wi-Fi is right behind you on the wall.
So once you're here, just scroll down to the through the walkthrough guide and it says what you need, and click this Dropbox link. Whoa. Once you're there, then you can just click this this ellipses and then just go download a zip. Sorry, it's github.com/yosh/Swift time tracker.
Is that do I do the background?
Yeah. So UI image views you can use for all your images. Like that's so when you see the Facebook news feed, like the app, their avatars are UI image views. The photos, those are UI image views. Everything is all done with that, and you just resize it.
So it's like the equivalent of like an image tag in HTML.
Yeah, correct. All right. So once you have these assets, just open up the zip. Timer assets. And then this part's pretty cool. So like, if you again, if you use Sketch or Photoshop, I primarily use Sketch. What it does is, actually I can show you, is it creates 2x assets. So if I want to export this blue background, you can see how when I make exportable, it gives me the size. It says like 1x. But since you always design in 2x, you probably want to make this one 1x and make this one 0.5. So now when I export that, this is what I get. I get blue blur, which is the 1x version, and then blue blur at 2x, which is a 2x version. And the reason why is because the iPhone needs to account for Retina screens, so it uses 2x pixel density. So now you want to go to back to Xcode, and underneath Storyboard you should see images.xc assets. So this is the folder where you put all of your image assets. You can see app icon, so those nice like icons you see on your screen, that's where you set them. Launch image, so when your app is loading on first load, that's where you set this. But what we're going to do is we're just going to add our image assets to this folder. So drag everything except for timer app sketch and drop it into this panel. So now you should see how it automatically, based on the names, assign things as 1x, 2x, and everything's going to be handled for you in terms of that when the UI image view serves up the asset. Another like gotcha I think that happens with this is it only accepts PNGs. So if you try to drop in a JPEG, it's just not going to drop in, and you're going to be confused for like 20 minutes.
If there isn't a 2x, does it just automatically assign them both the 1x and 2x?
Yeah, well, it needs a 2x to know. So
it will use the 1x version, but you'll be able to see it in the app because it'll be a little bit pixelated.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna
suffix by at 2x.
Yes.
With the same name, yeah. Or you can see how you have these little like spots right here. They're clickable, so you could drag in your own thing into that too. That's a more manual process. But this is a really fast way since like Sketch automatically creates those names. Just drop them all in. Cool. So now we have pretty much all the images we'll need for the.
Does everybody understand
project.
the retina versus non-retina that we just kind of talked about? Yes? Yes? Okay.
Any other questions so far? Okay. So now let's go back to our main storyboard. And then next to the objects library, now we can go to our image or media library. So we have the exact same kind of interface where we can drag and drop in images into our view controller or screen. So see how like it's pretty big, which is the correct size, but we're dragging it into this image view, so it's going to make it smaller. But of course, you can resize image views just like you do with views and boxes. So
It's not masking the image. You were just resizing, reproportioning the image.
yeah, there's different settings that you can do on an image view where you can do aspect ratio, scale to fill. So if you go to the attribute setting, aspect fit, aspect fill, those are things you use depending on what kind of feel you want.
If you wanted to, if you had an image that was larger than the controller, would it scroll and it go past?
So you would need to set up a couple things. You'd have to set up like a scroll view, and then put a view inside, and then that you'd have to set the heights. Yeah. So it doesn't do it automatically. So once you're here, you'll notice that it's blocking everything, right? Because the view hierarchy with these like layers, I think it's opposite than what you're used to in design, like Photoshop and Sketch. So it's reverse. So if you want this to be the background, then you need to move it to the top.
That's confusing.
Yeah, you're just like totally opposite, which you know. Cool. So then, yeah, so you can already see that the text, black is probably not going to work, so we want to go back to our attributes inspector and change this to white color. So Xcode has these pre-filled color settings, but you can also click the actual color, and this will give you like a color wheel. I think they like default you with this like crayon setup or something. Good luck with that. I don't know how that one works. But there's also some awesome plugins that I mean we could post like later at the end that you can use, like Scala Picker and this hex preview. So you're more used to probably as a designer working with hex codes or web developer. But yeah, you can also use color wheel. And then you want to do the same thing with the start button. So text color is blue. We want to go with white color. And then another thing that would be cool is if we added a background to the start button. So I'm just increasing the size, and I'm going to go, since it's selected, I'm going to Attributes Inspector, and then going to Background at the very bottom. Right now it says Default, which is like blank or clear. And then we want to select, actually I want to do this with this color wheel. So we want to select black, and then give it some opacity. So we'll go with 50%. So again, I just went to the color wheel. I like dropped the temperature down all the way, and then changed the opacity to 50%, and it sets it. Oh yeah, so that's next. Unfortunately, yeah, Xcode doesn't give you like rounded corners in this interface, so that's something you have to do with code. So when we get to the coding section, we'll go over that. So now let's run this app that we just made. Just press Command R, or hit the play button.
Is there a progress bar when you run it? So I wouldn't know how long it's gonna take.
No.
You
It's
gotta wait.
yeah, you just gotta wait. And sometimes you're like, did it even work?
Yeah.
Or like, and it crashes and like, yeah. Cool.
So one question is like, why do we need an image view? When I drag and drop the image,
Mhm.
I could drop it on the just the view controller itself. So
On the view controller?
yeah.
Yeah, because that dropped into the view. It's really good practice to use the image views and drag your images in there, especially once you start dealing with code and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
It's gonna be
Yeah,
easy
more
to connect.
control. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if this is within the scope of what you're going to talk about, but
Mhm.
I wanted to run this on iPhone 4 or something. Would I need to design completely new assets, or would that other thing that we disabled in the beginning?
Yeah, you would use auto layout, and what it would do is it would position the elements differently based on the height of the screen. But that's a little bit more involved. A lot of people use pure code, but then you can also do stuff in the interface. But yeah,
You
it's
probably use the same assets, but you have to figure out how to position them relative to pin them to the bottom or pin them to the top.
yeah.
As a workflow practice, do you tend to encourage or discourage of layout in production level? Actually designing.
You would do.
It really depends on the app. If auto layout's good for stuff like rotating. If you're going to rotate your phone and you want to keep the UI, if it's, in my experience, if it's only portrait, you can do it without auto layout. Auto layout adds a lot of complexity, and you can introduce some weird stuff. So I generally stay away from it, but
Yeah.
I drop down into code a lot and just manually position stuff. But as a designer, auto layout would make sense from a design standpoint.
It can be hard to debug too. Like you'll get into these situations where the entire everything will collapse on itself, and you're just like, what happened? You just uncheck a bunch of things. But all right. So to close this, you can either go to iOS Simulator and quit, or I always just do Command Q. Cool. So that's how you just set up a really basic view. So rather than doing hello world, since we're doing a timer app, we can put in a random time. And then notice when I did that, it's still on the left, so I just go to the inspect attributes and click center. So now I have a little time type label. So the next thing we want to do is we have multiple screens in this app. So a really cool way to go from screen to screen is first you want to embed this view controller in something called a navigation view controller. So there's a couple ways to do this. I think the easiest way is literally to just go to editor, embed in navigation controller. And what that does is it creates this navigation controller and puts this view controller inside. So then now the navigation controller is going to take care of the logic and thinking of how many screens in you have to go, and when you press back, what screen should you see, and all those things like that. It's just a really, really powerful and smart controller. So now once we do that, we can go back to our objects library. So click the circle, clear out any search if you did it, and just for fun, I think we'll start with a view controller. Start with a view controller. And then, so you just drag and drop it in to the canvas. And for me to zoom, I'm just doing the standard zoom on the trackpad. So now once I'm here, I'm going to drag in a UI image view. And then once you're here in the attributes panel, just click image, the text field, and then just type in saved times. All right, any questions? When you dragged in the navigation controller, hang on a second. He dragged in rather than the embed. If you delete the navigation controller, and then click your view controller that we started with, and then go to editor, embed in navigation controller. Yeah. So that'll make it much simpler.
That doesn't belong. It's not embedded in the navigation controller. Right?
Which one?
It's not embedded. The new view.
The new one isn't. Yeah, exactly. And that's the next.
Okay.
Oops.
And then we can just type it right here. Save times right there.
All right. Is everyone pretty much there? Okay. So this part it's pretty cool. It's actually one of the most crucial parts of building this stuff. So we need to connect these screens and like get them to kind of talk to each other or move with each other. So the way we can do that is like, if I press this start button, I want you to go to this next view controller, right? So what you can do is you literally just click the start button, hold control, then left click and drag to this view controller, like that. It's kind of weird, but literally click it, hold control, drag. This is you do this so much in Xcode. You do it to your code, you do it to different views. One of the most important things. And once you release, you should see push modal custom. We're just going to choose push. And what we're doing is we're creating a segue. So this tells the navigation controller, what should I do when someone clicks this button? So we're saying push the this other view controller in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run it, Command R.
You'll also notice when you hook up that segue that the navigation bar appears.
Oh yeah.
And that's because Interface Builder knows that you're now inside of a nav controller. So it's going to reserve that space.
So the back button is like automatically set up.
Yeah, that's all part of the navigation view.
Only for push though?
Yeah, so for modal, I think it would give you a cancel button, right? Because the modal will come up from the bottom or from the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no matter how deep you go, the back button will keep track of where it needs to go. Yeah.
But it's only showing the background.
No, there's
Okay.
That too. I just quit. Save it. Quit Xcode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing's buggy.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Cool.
This guy's gonna.
I mean,
when you run it, it just blanks.
So this is
The back.
Is there
this is a really cool way to prototype apps, like as a designer, because you can just, like you saw, I just dragged in a view controller, put in an image view, and then I just put in an image, and then it kind of looks like when I press start, it goes to that screen. So you can kind of build these like makeshift apps that look like they're doing what they should be doing, and as you saw, like you chose which button that you press that would bring in that other screen. So imagine if you had the button at like the top right or all these other things, you can kind of control what screen should show up next.
Go to
Cool.
Product to clean, and then go to window organizer. And then delete your derived data. It looks like you might
So
stored some. You have like a stored.
That was just an example of how to kind of do that stuff. But we need to build the actual view controller that's going to hold the data. Go ahead.
If you wanted to customize the navigation controller,
Yeah.
would you use it or would you do it custom? Like if you didn't want it to follow the iOS bar shop.
In terms of like
the back function, how it looks, if you wanted to change it to like something else,
yeah,
you wouldn't be using that feature.
you still can. You can still customize the back button how it looks. Like if you want just an arrow.
Prevent it from taking up that space.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do like make it translucent and things like that. We're actually gonna touch a little bit on that near the end as we like polish up the app.
You can change the icons and you can restyle the navigation bar.
Yeah.
So the action segue you created, would you not be able to access that without a navigation?
Yeah, you have to have a you have to, well, depending on which one. I think it will crash if you don't have a navigation controller, especially if you're doing the push, because push is relevant to keeping track of where it went, like what was the previous one, what was the last one. But I believe with modals, you might be able to get away with it, because modals are just.
It will tell you.
Okay.
I think it'll tell you which transitions are valid for your given interface.
Yeah.
So it won't let you use push unless you're in a navigation controller. You can use modal if you just want to present like another view on top.
Yeah, like a Twitter compose screen. That's where you would use modal. They just use modal. All sorts of stuff. So we're gonna delete this view controller. After all that hard work, I know. Sorry. Just click the top view controller and then just press delete. So that gets rid of your segue, gets rid of all that stuff. Yep.
Yeah, but you don't have the nav bar.
So what I just did was I right-clicked on this button to just there's a bunch of random stuff in there, but I was just checking to see if there's any more connections left over.
What did you click?
I just clicked the button. When I clicked the button, I right-clicked it. So we'll probably go over that a little bit as we get into the code. So now we want to drag in a table view controller. So just find table view controller and then drag it in. So a table view controller inherits from the view controller, which means it does everything that the doesn't it inherit from the does everything that the view controller does, but it's even more special because it's just focused on tables. So when you look at the Facebook news feed or Twitter, right, the stream, that's just a table view controller. The news feed, like, it looks kind of crazy because it has like this block and then has like a background, but all they're using are table view controllers to build that. So you have these like cells right here.
It's basically a scrollable list in iOS is a table view.
So I just went to, I clicked this cell here, table view cell, and I just changed it to basic from custom, just so I could like see the title and stuff. So then I could double click the title and just write like my first list item. So it's like a kind of a quick way to put in some random data or try things out. So again, we need to connect the start button to this table view controller. So we'll do the same exact thing that we did with the view controller. Control click, select push, and then we'll run it.
You lost the video again.
Oh, I did?
It's back.
Okay. So I press start, and now we're in this nice scrollable list.
How
but title didn't show up.
Change the name?
Which one?
My first title. How did you get that?
Oh, oops, crashed. I just clicked.
Double tap.
Yeah.
You double tap on the prototype cell.
Yeah, you gotta change it to.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't see anything because we still have to do some setup in like the code and stuff, but we're gonna get into that. Like that's actually gonna be a bulk of this session because table views are, I mean, they're just used everywhere. That's the backbone of any app. Okay.
How do you set the basic setting to table view?
I just click the cell, and then in the attributes panel, I just change it from custom to basic. But I was just showing that you could edit those fields and stuff. I'll probably leave it on custom. All right. So now we're going to start getting into the code aspect of this. So what you oh, good.
Just a question. When you link the button to the X view, what is the meaning of push? Is it such that you can push data to the next view, or?
It's more, I guess, pushing kind of like the action, and then also in terms of the view controller, the navigation controller keeps track of which views are in what order. So you're kind of like pushing that into the array too.
It's an analogy, not necessarily.
It's like a stack. Right. So if you think about it, like you could then push another view controller on top, and then as you pop them off, you go back in the chain. It's like push and pop.
Push and pop. Yeah. So it's like add and remove.
What do I do when control clicking doesn't give me options? Is that push or? I can draw the line, but why release them?
If you click the button, yeah, and then also make sure you're doing it to the view controller. Sometimes you'll try to do it to like a specific element, and it'll just like throw it off. Okay. All right. So all of these are just views. Like this is like the skin layer, what something looks like, and that's why it's really good for prototyping. But to make things more dynamic, and actually it's like adding the brains to these views, we're going to use code. So this first view controller has already has a file called view controller here. I want to make sure that's clear. Like that was automatically created for us, and the way that it's connected is on this panel. So to the left of the attributes inspector, there's show identity inspector, and see how it says class view controller? That's referring to this file. So now the view knows like, okay, where do I get all my logic from, or what should I listen to? And it goes, okay, let's check my class, and says, okay, view controller. Now let's check the view controller.swift file. Go ahead and delete, like this just did receive memory warning to kind of like keep things more clean. That all it does is tells you if you're just running a bunch of memory on the phone. So real quick, once you click this view controller.swift file, you're going to see import UIK, which just imports a lot of functions for us to use. And you're going to see this function called viewDidLoad. So that's where we put a majority of our code, because it's literally once the view loads, then run all these rules that we kind of set, or commands. So a good example, we could do like, actually, oops, nslog, or printline, sorry.
This code will get run before the view is ever shown on the screen. So you can manipulate your view before the user ever sees it.
I only have a view controller
M?
So you didn't set up a Swift project, you set up an Objective-C project, which, I don't know, can you go back?
You copy paste if
You have to remake.
I think you have to remake a project.
Yeah.
With Swift. So in the dropdown, when you say new project, you have to pick Swift.
So
I thought you could.
Yeah, you can also help him out too if he gets too stuck. So at the top right, there's a debug area. You want to click that, and that's going to slide up this thing at the very bottom. And this is pretty huge because when you have to debug your apps, like this is all you got. So what we expect to happen is when we run this app, the view controller should load, and upon loading, it should run this function, which then we said, hey, print hello there, my view is loaded. So let's run it with Command R. And then there, you see at the bottom, it printed that statement. So now you know that like you have access to this like code block and you can do stuff. So huh?
Your view here, it like started with the
yeah,
phone screen?
And then came in.
Is that like a setting, or mine doesn't do just...
You Command Shift H, it'll take you home.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's literally an iPhone on the computer. Okay, so this next part is a really, really important part of building apps. You need to be able to connect your UI, like your buttons, your labels, all these things to code. So for example, right now I have this label that says 3718. Like, if I wanted it to say like hello world, I could double click it and change it. But if I want to do that in code, I need a way for the code to be able to know how to talk to that label. So what you do is you want to click this tuxedo guy up here, show assistant editor. Whoops, let's close out this debug thing. Oh wow. Yeah.
Oh, that's because I changed it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so go into View, Show Assistant Editor on right.
Okay. So if you had anything on the bottom, yeah, just go to View, Assistant Editor is on right. Because, yeah, usually you're used to doing it like left to right. So now you have the view and the code together. So again, we're using this hold control, we'll click the button, hold control, and then drag to right below this class, view controller.
The custom class that you set on the view is UI table view cell. You have to manually change that? It's not view controller.
You should be in view controller. Yeah, you should be on the first one.
So on the first screen, when I'm selecting that view, it tells me UI table view cell.
Oh yeah, you should be on
I see.
this view controller.
It matters which thing you click.
Yeah, because this file is associated with this because of this layer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's back this way. Any other questions? Yeah, for sure. So once you click the tuxedo, you're gonna have this left and right panel, and you want to click Start. Hold Control, and then left click drag to below this like view controller class, and then it's gonna give you this this little modal that asks for a name, which is just like a variable name. So we're gonna call this Start Button. Make sure this says Outlet, UI button, and Storage Weak. Don't worry too much about like what all those different things mean. And then hit connect. So now you see that we have this new variable, Start Button. So click the Show Standard Editor, and then click View Controller.Swift. So now we have a full screen here. Now we want to, in order to access this start button, you just type self, which refers to the parent, which is view controller. He or she contains the labels, the buttons, everything, anything that's on the screen in the views. Then you do start button, gives you access to it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to round the corners of the button. So you want to type layer, corner. So layer is access to kind of like the underneath the view. Mm-hmm. Which one? So another cool thing with Xcode is it auto-completes a lot of this code for you. So you just have to hit tab to make it finish. Then set this equal to, let's say, 5 points. So now when we press Command R again, we should expect to see the corners of our button to be rounded by 5 points. There you go. So quick start goes to there. Okay. So let's see what we should do next. So the next thing, go ahead.
This is a question on theory. If we hadn't connected start to view controller, we wouldn't have been able to change anything like the code. Or how is this self related to that button in specific? Just
So self is the controller.
right.
So self is the the logic behind the view, and if you didn't connect the two, it probably wouldn't compile. So the compiler would say you're trying to access a variable that doesn't exist. But if it wasn't hooked up, then you'd probably get a runtime failure when you try to access it.
Okay, so then you hook up everything to the view controller and then just do self dot whatever you call it, and manipulate that specific.
And Swift is nice in that the self is actually optional, so you actually don't even need it.
But it's just a start button later.
You can say start button, yeah. Later.
Oh, oops, let's just do that. Okay, so now we want to go back to main storyboard, and well, a couple things. You see how there's this segue that's connecting these two? You're going to want to delete that. So just click it and then press delete. So now that gets rid of the segue connection. What we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this start button. So just click it and then press Command D to duplicate it. So now you should see another one right here. Want to position that over the start button, double click it and press stop. Now you want to do a control click from the stop button to the table view controller. So it's now connected through the stop button rather than the start button. And then again, you want to make the stop button a variable. So do click the tuxedo at the top right, click the button, hold control, and drag it to the code. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You lost it.
Oh yeah. When you hit the delete button, did you accidentally delete the storyboard?
Oh.
I almost did that, but it gave me one.
It's giving you to trash and like why is that happening?
Yeah.
You can't like Command Z, it won't bring it back.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe did you check your trash?
I'm actually not sure. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
It's actually in the trash.
It's in the trash?
Probably bring it into the folder directory.
Yeah, I guess.
Can you drag it back?
Drag it back into the folder on the left from the trash.
Where, like, you mean like my system trash or like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might be able to drag it right into Xcode.
Right, or just right into Xcode.
I've never done that.
I've never done that before.
Yeah, the item in the directory was selected, and so when you hit the delete button, then the segue.
Oh, I see.
Use storyboard.
Shoot.
Move to trash. Let's see. That.
Copy with mute.
Yeah.
Hope this works.
Yeah, I think you can just drag it back into Xcode.
Yeah, from your file trash.
I can't remove references instead of
Huh?
trash.
You did what?
I removed the reference and moved to trash, so I don't know where to recover.
It should be in whatever folder you created the project in. There should be a main.storyboard in that folder. It's not in the trash. Oh, it's under. Yeah, it's under Swift Time Tracker. Yeah. Never encountered that.
Yeah. And the remove references gets tricky too, I think. Sometimes because the Xcode doesn't know how to talk to files.
It removes it from the project, but
Yeah.
doesn't delete the file.
Yeah. Okay.
Is everybody okay? Did we salvage our...
Back.
Why duplicate the button? It just like layers two buttons on top of each other. How do you get it? I guess in your some transparency, like you see the start button.
Yeah, there's some transparency, so you can kind of see the start button below it. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can kind of see it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We'll be adding logic to kind of handle that. Are you guys back online?
How did you remove the connection?
You just click.
That's how I lost it.
You just click this thing.
Yeah.
And this is the segue. So you can just click that and then press delete.
So, the way you define start button and stop button, I know the interface did that for you, but what exactly is the IB outlet mean? Are you planning to cover that?
Yeah, like IB outlet is just interactive board.
It's
Outlet.
It's a way for Xcode to know what your connections are. It actually doesn't do anything. It's just like a void kind of thing. But if you, so when you kind of mouse over the little like target at the line number, it will actually show you what element that is linked to. And so it's sort of a semantic way that Xcode keeps track of all those connections.
It's also for you to debug and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right. Did you say hover over that?
Yeah.
I know that. Oh, the
You know-
plus.
Yeah. You know where it
So
is.
if I were to never use storyboard and just use code, the @ doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So you wouldn't.
If you constructed your own views, yeah, you wouldn't use weak, you would use strong, and you wouldn't use IB outlet.
Do you guys get your files back?
No.
Remake? Okay. It's good practice, yes. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing to the stop button. So just do stop button.layer.cornerRadius plus 5. And then now,
Wait, how did you get to this? I missed
this part. So go back to the tuxedo. Did you create the stop button already?
No.
Okay. Let me go back to storyboard. So what I did was I clicked the start button, and then I just pressed Control D to duplicate it. And then once I was there, I overlaid it on top of the start button. And then so then now that you have that stop button, you Control click. Well, you want to click tuxedo first, and then Control click like this to your code, so it connects it.
Are you gonna go over syntax later, or like should we ask questions as we go?
Yeah, at the end, so we can just get a like general overview, a visual overview of it. Okay. So now we're going to create. So what we're going to do is on load. Actually, we'll just do this in the interface. So go to main storyboard, click stop, the stop button, and then go to this attributes panel and click hidden at the very bottom right. It's under view. So what that does is it just hides the button. It's almost like display none on web. You're still kind of seeing it here, but it shouldn't show up in the simulator. Let's see. Yeah. And then this is not connected to anything, so you're not changing screens. So there is a way to hide things with code, which we are going to go over, but that's just a quick way to do it using the visual interface. We're trying to use that as much as we can. So now we're going to try to create this timer. So, oh yeah, one more thing. The other crucial part about storyboards and code. So get the tuxedo clicked again. Make sure you click main storyboard first, then click the tuxedo. And then what you want to do is you want to control click the start button to this code. Actually, I drag it like down here. And the reason why we're doing that is because rather than creating an outlet, we're creating an action. So actions can only be created on things like buttons, switches, so you know when you're toggling on and off something, and things like that. So make sure you click start, hold control, left click drag to the code, and then select action.
What's an outlet again?
An outlet is like a variable, like I think of it more as like a visual, or like if you want to, like a visual variable. So if you want to change like some the border radius of something, or change the words like the text, then I use an outlet. Actions are things like if I click this, do something.
Action is like an event. It's an event handler.
So for the buttons, start and stop, right? So we find its own corner radius for each of them. Is there a way to kind of generalize that for all buttons?
I think there could be. I'm not sure. Like in general, usually do very specific UI. Sometimes you do like custom UI files, so they're very specific. But there could be a way. I'm not sure. I have to think
Might be able to do it with appearance proxies. I'll see if I can.
Okay. So once we're on action, naming conventions are pretty important in Xcode. So what you want to do is you kind of want to name it with like an action. So did press start button. Good way to name things.
Sorry, I don't see action. I just see outlet and collection.
So did you click the start button on the interface? And that's a UI button, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we did a control click to the code.
Correct.
You see this connection up top?
I do. I see outlet. I only see a drop down with two options. I see one as outlet, the other one is outlet connection.
Outlet and out.
You drag it between the brackets.
Yeah.
did press start button. So the idea is like you also want to use camel case a lot because that's just a standard convention with Xcode. I'll show you again. Control action. Did press start button. Don't worry about like the rest of this stuff. You actually rarely do anything with that. Then press connect.
How did you hide the
In the UI, so when you go to main storyboard, you click the stop button, and then if you look at the attributes panel right here, and you go to the very bottom, there should be a hidden. Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes those sections get collapsed, so it can be somewhat
Oh, like
confusing.
this? Yeah.
It's happened to me before.
Hide and show.
So.
All right. So what I like to do whenever I create a new function or action is test again. We're going to do the nslog or print. And then I just run it. And make sure you click this debug panel at the top right. So now when I click start, I expect to see this print statement. But I'm not. Let's see. Print on start this. Actually, I think it might be nslog.
Should be the same thing.
It's weird.
You could set a breakpoint. See if it gets there.
It's not even running.
Is the stop button probably?
Huh?
Is the stop button?
No, the stop button is.
You may have attached it to the stop button.
Oh, good point.
It's possible.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay, that was a mistake. Hang on.
So
Going back to yeah.
We just attached an event to a hidden button, which
Yeah.
will never get fired.
Exactly, that's what happened.
How did you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually, even though it's hidden, it's still sitting above it.
Yeah.
So do we just delete that and read it?
So yeah, so this is a way to move
Right-click on the button and
these actions.
drag.
Oh, in the tuxedo.
We'll click from the stop to like in the view controller pane.
Oh, right here?
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
click there and drag it.
Okay. Do the control click.
The other thing you can do is you can right-click on elements, and it will show you all the events that are attached, and then you can drag from within there as well.
Like this.
So you can add or remove. That's sort of the many options that you probably will never use.
Is action just like the default for that whatever component?
So when you click drag, the default is touch up inside. So it's when you release, but you can attach it to touch down if you wanted to.
So the dragging from the button, that's not just a shortcut. Like in the code, there's no identifier of the actual button.
It helps. I guess it helps with identify it.
What I mean is like that dragging is just a shortcut. Is there any way just by typing code to actually target a button?
Yeah, I can do that target.
You mean you want to attach the action
Just with pure
in code?
Well, I guess the thing I noticed was the first time we attached the stop, when I added the start, looking at the two code, like the two lines side by side, they're identical.
Mm.
I named them the same thing. They both
Yes.
say any object. Is there any way to know what a
So you
line
can
of code is doing?
not super easily. You mean you want to know which function is attached to which button?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh.
Or just from
pure code?
From pure code, no.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to be in side by side mode, and sort of when you hover over it, it'll show you what you're attached to.
How do I disassociate action with it?
Yeah. So So this is another kind of gotcha that you run into where if you create an IB outlet or if you create an action and you're just like, oh man, I wanted to name it something else. Your first reaction is just to rename it, and it will just break everything. So what you need to do is you need to disassociate it first. So a good way to do that is to just click the stop button, right-click it, and then you see this where it says push table view, or not push table view controller. Touch up inside view controller did press start button. You can just X that out. Make sure that you see I clicked the label here. I clicked stop and then I right clicked and then I deleted it from here. So now see how this is like an empty circle? Like it's not associated with anything. So I can literally just click and drag to the start button. So now the start button should do what we intended it to do.
How did you hold that black button?
So click the stop button right here and just right click it. And then you get to see like what it's kind of connected to. So you should see at the bottom where it says touch up inside. And you should be able to click X to remove that connection.
But can you, like, before when we defined the corner radiuses of both the buttons, could you change the name there? Or would it, if that literally would not work?
Yeah, it wouldn't. You would have to redo the IB outlets.
That will break.
Yeah. And it's a weird bug too.
It'll say like your view is not key value compliant. So if you ever see that kind of error, that's a sign that your names are out of sync.
Any way to tell which ones are out of sync?
Not really. Yeah.
It's a common pain point.
Yeah. Okay. So has everyone kind of connected their start button to this action? This one? And then we'll open up the debug pane. Let's start, and then now it's running. Every time we click, it does something. So now, we could do a couple things. I'm going to just create a variable called text label. And then I'm going to go back to main storyboard and click the tuxedo again. And now we want to create an IB outlet for this label so we can change it and do stuff. So we just click the label, control click to the main view or to the code, and then type in time label as an IB outlet. So just outlet, and then hit connect. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back here. So we just created a random variable. So it's just going to hold this string. So we just went var text label equals this string. And this can be anything. You can put your name in here. Difference between what? Yeah. Oh, without the var?
I believe var is optional.
VAR is optional? Okay. So this is, I guess, more for clarity then? Okay, so you just create this string variable, and then go back to your main storyboard, and then click this label, click the tuxedo again, and then I already did it, but control drag to the code. Yeah, so usually keep it next to all the other IB outlets at the top. and then type in the name. I chose like time label, and then hit connect. Okay, so now I'm going to go, whenever I press this button, I want to change that time label to say something else. So whenever I press the button, time label dot text equals text. I'm going to change text label to something called like my phrase, so it's a little bit more clear. Then we're going to run the code with Command R. And then check out the time. Press start. Oh man. Okay. I'll redo this. It happens when we're like doing stuff with the simulator or something. Okay. When I run the simulator. Okay, so see how it says 3718? Then when we press the start button, it sets it to whatever variable or my phrase that we made. What happened?
The stops of the start button. Oh wait.
Ben, could you
Yep.
help him debug that? Sure. He has a key value compliant
Oh, nice.
thing. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Cool. All right, so this is going to be interesting because this is going to be the first time we kind of build a function, a timer function. So the way we want to start to do this is go to the top underneath your IB outlets. So in general, it's like a good practice. I like to keep all the variables at the top and together. So type in variable timer equals ns timer. So we're initializing this thing called ns timer, and it's literally like a stopwatch, so to speak, that we can tell like whenever you count down, run something. So the way that we kind of we define that is in the once you press start, we're going to go timer equals ns timer scheduled time. So see how it starts to autocomplete. Right when I type in scheduled, you want to select the second option. So you just press down and then tab. Tab. So for time interval, this is the NS timer is asking for like an input. It's like asking us during what interval do you want me to run? And we're just going to put 1.0 for 1 second. So every 1 second I want this timer to run a function. So target, we're just going to choose self is the parent, so it's just like the target is on the parent. Selector. So selector is a function. So timer is basically asking us every second, what do you want me to run? Which function? And a function is just like a block of code that tells a program what to do. So for example, I could have a function that says like say hello, and I will do print ln hello, and every second it would run this. So I mean let's try that. It will be say hello is the function, user info. For now, user info it's a way to pass like variables to these functions. So we're just putting in ns date because that's going to be something we use later. We'll go into that. We'll go into that in a bit. And then repeats, just put true. So that just tells it to every second repeat itself. Keep running. Okay. So now, since we created this selector called say hello, you want to go underneath and then type in funct say hello, and then print so when we run this, I'll let you catch up with the code.
What was the difference between the other time, the NS timer schedule? There's 2 options.
Yeah. I'm not too sure what the first one did. I've only used the second one. I think it's like a shortcut. So if you're not going to do any selectors or something like that, I have to check out what NS invocation is.
I think it's like an inline function.
Inline? But yeah, this one gives us, I guess, the most control in terms of how to run functions and stuff. So now we're going to press Command R to run our app. And open up the debug screen again. And when we hit start, hello there. Every second it should say that, which is. I should have did like count. Yeah.
Get an extra argument selected and on.
Extra argument is when you build a timer.
Yeah, so the line like where the selector I entered say hello. It's showing in it.
Yes.
The compiler.
Give the function extended error.
Narrative. Okay. Hang on. Let me check this one first. What is it saying? Extra argument selected.
Oh, actually, it's selected.
Oh. So you see how you said it's time limit? You want to do timer because we initialized timer as yeah as the variable. Okay. Anyone else?
So in this error, NS timer is not a subtype NS string.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're assigning it. So what happens is you're assigning it to. You need to take out my phrase needs to have a string value. So right now it's pointing back at the timer. So, or you can change my phrase to something, but you're essentially trying to assign a text field to a timer, which doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Right? So whenever you call .text, it has to be a string.
Oh, right.
If you try to assign a timer, the compiler bugs
Yeah,
out
it's
on
to
you.
a time. I had timer.
Oh, nice. Cool. All right. So now we want to get the. So rather than this function saying say hello, we want to make it something more realistic to what we're trying to do. So we want to call it update time label. And then cut out this code var my phrase equals, or whatever you used up there, in time label.text. So you only have the timer and the did press start button. And then just paste it in here. So now we want to do, do you want to do the end state? So,
Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do now is, I could just kind of,
yeah. Just cut this out from here. So the only thing that should be in here is the timer. And then we just paste it into this new function that we made.
We're going to do now is we're going to use the start time of the timer to figure out how many seconds have elapsed since when we click the button. Do you want me to hide the buttons too? We'll get to that later. So I'm just going to call it elapsed, and this is kind of gets at the internal APIs for dates in Objective-C, but for now, I'm going to follow along. So if date objects has a method called time. Okay, so you basically have to cast this user info back to an NS date because Swift doesn't know that it's a date object. And so the way you do that is, okay, so, sorry. So what happens is when you construct this timer right here, you pass it a user info object, and that is the current date. It's the current system date. But what happens is when you want to access it, you need to tell the compiler that that thing is a date so that it will allow you to then call the date-specific method on it. So the way you do that is you say self.timer.userinfo as NSDate. And you know it's an NSDate because we set it that way when we started. And what that will get us is the number of seconds. And then what we want to do is set the text to a new string. And our format for now is going to be %f. And what this is going to say is this tells Swift that we want to take a floating point number, which is the number of seconds since the date started, and then we're going to convert it into a string. And this thing is going to fire every second, so hopefully it will update for us. So what you'll see here is, like, since it's firing every second, but it doesn't fire exactly on the second, you'll see some floating point stuff over there, and that's just like the lag in your event system. So it's like it tells it to fire roughly every second, but it's not going to be exact. And so what we can do is if you put %.0f, that format means rounded off to 0 decimal points. And then if you click Start again, you'll see it increment nicely, just like so. So everybody, yay! We've got a timer. And I think what we're going to do next, because we're running a little short on time here, we were going to kind of get into what happens when it gets to 60 seconds, which I can do. It's not super easy, but I'll just put it in here. I'm not going to explain exactly how this works, but so if we do elapse is less than 60, we want to just have single-digit seconds. Otherwise, we want to do a little math here. And the way we're going to do that is using remainders. So this format is slightly complicated because you have, I don't want a dot here. That's confusing the issue. Basically all this says is format my minutes and then format my seconds. And you do that. Yeah, so you divide by 60 and then you take a modulus by 60. And we hope it works. I'm not going to sit here and wait 60 seconds. You can try this on your own time. All right, we're good.
Good?
We got times.
Oh, sweet. Cool. All right. Any questions? That's good. Now we're going to go to the did press start button. And actually, yeah. And what we want to do is we want to, once we press start, we want to hide that button. And then we want to show the stop button instead. So the way we do that is we just go start button. So in the did press start button function, the IB action, just type start.button or start_button.hidden equals true. And then if you want to reveal the stop button, you do stop_button.hidden equals false. We'll run this. Sorry. So press start. Now the stop button shows up. And then we press stop, it just goes to the next table view. But we'll fix that. Okay. How's everyone doing? So now we're going to go to the main storyboard. And did you have a question? Now we're going to go back to the main storyboard. And then you want to click stop on this left side. So under view controller scene, view controller where this is all listed, click stop. If you can't see it, go to this bottom right here and click this little sliding window thing, icon. So make sure stop is selected and then click the tuxedo. Now you want to scroll to the bottom of this file. So click stop on the left, hold control, and then drag this. Actually, let's just put this at the very bottom, right before this ending curly brace. Drag it there and then release. Make sure you change connection to action, and then type stop button, or did press stop button. Did press stop button. And then hit connect. So it should look like this. So now when we press the stop button, we want the timer to stop. So I don't know if you saw in the last simulator, when we press the stop button, it pushed to the table view controller, and then when we press back, the timer was still counting, right? I could show you that. So I press start, the timer starts updating, counting. When I press stop, so see it's at 5, I press stop, it's showing the table view controller. We click this at 5, now when I press back, it's still counting, so it's at 12, 13, 14. Yeah, we just added a new one again as an IB action. So now, in order to stop the timer, the way that you do that is you type in timer dot invalidate. If you run it again, what'd you say? Error. So now when I press start, it's updating, updating, updating. We're going to stop it at 5. So it switches to the table view controller, but when we press back, it stopped at 5. So invalidate is the way that you tell a timer to stop repeating. So the next thing we want to do is, this is where it gets, I guess, pretty intense with the table view. So go to main storyboard, and then you see you have your table view controller here. Ben. Oh, do you have a question too? Oh, just an error. Okay. So this part's pretty important because you haven't connected a view with a file besides the one that was created for you. Like your first view controller was already connected to a view controller file because that's what you started with. But with the table view controller, we don't have, basically we don't like have any brains connected to the table view controller. So the way we want to do that is you want to go to File, New, or actually, sorry, go to just right-click this Swift Timer App Beta, and then click New File. So this is your first time seeing this screen, and this is where you generate all of your Swift files, some Objective-C files. Huh? I'll do that again. You can just right-click on any of these files. I right-click always on the folder that I want to create the file in, and then I click New File. And then you want to just go to, on the left it says iOS source, Cocoa Touch class, and that's going to create a Swift file for you. So when you hit next, it's now asking the name of the file, or the class name. So we want to call this, well, before we do that, just go to subclass of and change that to table view controller. Because again, we're trying to create the logic and like brains for this table view controller, and by selecting subclass of UI table view controller, it gives us those special properties that we're going to be able to use. And it also changes our class name. So to be a little bit more descriptive, I usually write like saved times. These are the saved times that are going to go into this table view controller. So it's a little bit more obvious of what it is. And then make sure these are all, language Swift. Don't click create a nib file or zip. And then just hit next. And then create. So we moved it down here. We can just click and drag to move it back up here. So now you have, we're not going to look at this code just yet, but now you have this file that's going to be the brains of your table view controller. So go back to the main storyboard, click your table view, and then open up this right panel, and then click this identity inspector, which is right next to the attributes. Type in save times table view controller. So it should autocomplete. That's like super, super important in terms of no matter what view you make, if you want to have special logic connected to that view, like you have to do these exact steps. That's the only way that Storyboard or this file knows like who's kind of like giving it the commands of like printing stuff or doing anything. All right, so is everyone at this part good? Okay.
Custom class Mine's not auto-completing. You know, if that's something wrong.
It's not auto-completing when you start typing it in? What did you name your file? Did you?
Click on the view. I had the same issue. I clicked on the once you click on the tab view control. Then you should
Did you do subclass? Okay. Okay. So we're going to delete a lot of stuff from this file because just don't need to see all this. So I'm just deleting everything in the underneath super.viewDid load, deleting received memory warning. I just deleted everything in the viewDid load besides the super.viewDid load. So all the like commented out code. And then everything below this comment, which is the unique name is solve for row at index path. Like don't touch that, but delete everything else below that. So all of this move row. Don't delete the last closing bracket though. So it should your file should now look like this, which is much easier to read.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically, trying to
Just put this on for right now as a Tableview. Okay. So how does this? Okay. So table views are kind of confusing to start. They're probably one of the more confusing things, especially for people first starting out in iOS. Even though they're like one of the most important things, because there's just so much code in like all these functions. But by breaking it down into these four like critical ones, it becomes much easier to understand. So function number of sections in table view. If you like when you're in your iPhone and you kind of go to settings, you see things like Wi-Fi, or you see things like location. Like those are the sections. So you're able to kind of label the different cells. So you could be like, hang on a second, let's see. Like if I go to settings on my phone, you can see how like everything is kind of split up into these different groups, and that's the number of sections. But for us, since we only have one group, which is the save times, we're just going to put in 1. So it's just put return 1. And then for number of rows in section, that's like how many rows do you want in this table view. So if we wanted to save like 3 times, then we'd put three rows. For right now, let's just put 3. But you can understand that in more dynamic apps like like Twitter or Facebook, you don't really know the post count, right? So you're just you do something with an array. You do an account. But we're gonna do that really soon. So lastly, there's this block of code that's commented out. Just delete these stars and this backslash. You uncomment it. This is cell for row at index path. This is where everything happens to change the look of it, to change the text, to change the image, date, all sorts of different things. Like this is each specific cell, like how you can customize it. So a good example will be underneath configure the cell, just type in cell dot text label dot text equals some string, any string. You can put your name or anything. Let's run this, see what happens. So 3. So the idea is we're going to have one section, which you can't really see, 3 cells, and each cell should say like I am a cell. Doesn't mean you have to change identifier. Oops.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Oh, sorry. So one last thing we forgot to set is DQ reusable cell with identifier. So what that means is if you go back to your main storyboard and you click this cell, this one cell right here, you should notice that you're highlighted under table view cell right here. And then if you go to the attributes inspector, you see this thing called identifier, reuse identifier. So a really brief understanding of it is each cell has a special like ID, and this is its name. So we want to call this like time cell. That's where we're going to store our times. So then that lets the code in the table view controller file know that, hey, find this time cell and then apply all these things we said to do, like change the text label to say I am a cell. So now once we name that time cell, we just go back to the save times table view controller and then change reuse identifier to time cell. And note like the capitals, the camel case, like that's super important. Then press stop. And then let's run this. So now when you press stop, you see each cell being identified and saying what we said the text label to say. So the next thing we're going to do is make this a little bit more dynamic. So this is actually going to be the first time you kind of see, Ben covered the arrays in the playground, and we're going to build an array right here. So just go to the top underneath the class, type in var save times array. So this is what we call a typed array. In terms of like visualizing it, I kind of think of it as like almost like a backpack. So this save times table view controller has this like backpack that can hold things. But because we put in string in these brackets, it can only hold strings, which are like words. So for example, if you try to put a number in there or put a glass in there like this, like it wouldn't accept it because it only accepts strings, which are essentially words. So now when the view did load, let's just create an array of strings. So first, so now we just made like a random array, and this is where you'd put like things like tweets if you were to do Twitter. It would just be an array of tweets.
Can you declare an array and apply constraint on it, like the string thing that you've done? So the way you define some strings as for variable name equals text, can you name an array first, second, third, and still apply a constraint so that if you ever add another element to it, it can't be a number?
That it can be a number?
It can't.
Oh, it can't.
Yeah.
Can you do it all in one line?
You can, yes.
Yeah.
You can use the colon syntax and then say it's an array of strings and then assign it an array of strings.
You mean the one with this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. String. I think it'd be like this, right? Yeah. So
assign it to just friends.
Okay, two friends, which would be like this. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was just playing around with this. You don't have to change that. But that is something you do see in Swift kind of often, where they have this like colon and then the class name. But wanted to stay away from that type of like typecasting for this to keep it looking a little bit more simple in terms of the variables in the code. So now, rather than this saying I am a cell, we want it to say whatever the first object in the array is, or the second object, or third. Like this is how you make it dynamic. So the way we do that is we just call save times array. Object index. Actually, we can just do this. So here, if we just did 0, I'll just show you guys. If we did 0, then it grabs the array and it says, give me the first object in this array, and set that to the text label. So see how everything says first. So if we put in a 1, then it would do the first item in the array, or second item in the array, which is second. If we did 2, etc., etc. So rather than having this as a constant number, we want to make this a variable. So we just go indexPath.row, and indexPath is how table the table view controller knows which cell it's on. So the first index path is 0, which is the firstmost, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3. So indexPath.row gives us the number of where we are in the table. So we run this, start, first, second, third. So now you can kind of see how our times are starting to build up. Like we have to grab our time from the first view controller, and then add that to an array, and then send it to this one, so then it can just use that array to populate this list. So the way we want to do that is by going back to the view controller.swift file. And then here we want to, again, create an array of times. So go to we're just creating a variable so that we could store all these times that we get. And then one thing you noticed was when you press the stop button in your app, it segues into the table view controller. But before it segues into the table view controller, we want it to pass data. So this is another really crucial part of just building an app, is how do you pass data from screen to screen. And using Storyboard, the way that you do that is by using a function called prepare for segue. So the way you want to create this is you just go to the bottom, start typing in prepare, and it'll autocomplete. Prepare for segue. Select this one, and open bracket, close bracket. So what this does is it lets us get access to what happens right before it transitions. So right before it switches screens, we want to say, hey, take this data with you and bring it to this screen. So the way that we do that is, one, we need to capture the data. So by capturing the data, all we do is set the create a variable called save time, which is just going to be timer label. Yeah, time label dot text. So right before it transitions, it's going to check the time label and grab whatever's in there. And that's going to be the variable save time. Then we want to add that to our array, or our bag. So time array dot append save time. So you can use append, or you can use time array equals plus equals save time. Those are just two different ways to do it. So now when we press it, our array should have that, that time inside. So next what we want to do is, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but it's just another type of variable that can't be changed. It's like it's a constant. So we're saying let destination view controller equal sender dot I'll go over this. So we're saying let our variable or constant named destination view controller equal sender.destination view controller. So sender.destination view controller is, so right when we click, or right when we try and do the segue, the navigation controller knows what it's going to. What's the destination? Which view controller am I going to? And then it's accessed by just doing sender.destination view controller. So that's how we're able to get our save times view controller. And when we write as save times view controller, we're telling it what it specifically is. So to start, like, the segue doesn't really know. Like, it just knows it's bringing in a view controller. But to be very specific in the code, we have to tell it you're bringing in a save times view controller. So then, yeah.
Is that destination view controller that it always has to be called that? Is that how it works? Or?
Just for the sender part. So this could just be called like next screen or next view. That's just a variable name. But this is a property of sender to get that specific view controller. So now that we have next, we have the save times table view controller that we called next.view controller. We can access the array that we created. I'll show you real quick. In the save times table view controller at the top, we created this save times array. So now in the view controller, in this segue, we can access that. Because we created it in the previous line. And now we just set it equal to our time array. So then now, whatever time we saved will then get passed to the view controller in that array. Remember how we had first, second, third? Right here. We can just delete this because this was just dummy data to show how it worked. And then when we run it, what we expect to see is whatever time that we ended at when we press stop, it should have that time listed in the table view controller as the first one. So here we'll go to like 5 seconds. Oops. Let save times controller. Yeah, it's not the best error handling. Found no while unwrapping an optional value. Let's see. Next.
Is it because you named next view controller and destination view controller?
Oh no, those are sender.destination view controller is a attribute of sender. So that's a specific thing, but anything after the let can be it's just a variable. Yeah. I'm not sure what this one is. Failure unexpectedly found no while unwrapping an optional value. Let's see. We found no. What was oops.
I think it might be in your table view controller. So.
Oh, okay.
Number of rows.
Number of rows? Oh, that could be, yeah. Because it's set here with nil.
So I think it's breaking, but it's giving you the wrong error.
Okay.
It's trying to construct the destination controller.
Okay.
It's constructing cells, but the cells. But the array isn't of length 3.
Yeah.
It's trying to dereference.
I think that doesn't exist. Unexpectedly found nil. Storyboard, segue, save time, text. Interesting.
So I downloaded your project from GitHub and you have segue.destination folder.
Oh, whoops. There it is. Thanks. There you go. Nice. Okay. Thank you. The so yeah, it's segue.destination view controller to get the next view controller that's in there. Because segue is the one that knows like who's connecting to who, what's previous and what's next. And then now if you go to your save times table controller, you'll notice that in number of rows in section, I put save times array.count. So before it just said like 3, but we want to make this dynamic. So we want it to only show however many times that we actually have. That's the number of cells we want it to make. So if we run this again, it should be 3. If we press back, it just keeps using the same one because we didn't put logic to reset the times. All right, so is everyone caught up on this part? No? Okay.
I was fixing something, so I missed part of the stuff. I don't know what error I have.
Which, okay, you're still in an error. Then maybe Ben could help out. Huh? Which one? Time array is at the top of view controller. Okay, so you notice how when we press back and press stop again, it just kept adding that same time. So in order to change that, once the segue happens, we want to hide the stop button. And show the start button. So what happens is when we click that stop button, it's going to switch screens, but then it's also going to hide it and then show the start button again. So then that's going to allow us to, when we press back, start the timer again. Another thing we want to do too is we want to set the timer equal to 0.
Wouldn't that happen automatically because you're starting it over?
I mean, set the text
Okay,
equal to
yeah.
0.
Could you explain why you put it in the prepare for segue section instead of the did press stop button?
Did press stop? So I did it right before, I guess, everything like transitions. You can put it in either of the two. But yeah, the reason I chose is because it's right as it's transitioning. So now I'm just going to go here, .text equal to 0. So once it saves the time and puts it in an array, then it's just going to set our, in the app where it says the time, it's just going to set that back to 0. So when you press back, you can start the timer again from 0.
Ended up saving the wrong time by doing it?
As long as you put it underneath the, right after you append it, then it's getting reset. That's very important. So if you put this variable before it, you're going to save the wrong time. We'll run this. start, stop 4, switch back to 0. We can start again. 3. And you just can keep running your timer. So now you have like just the basic setup of the timer.
So why do you have to use let? I tried with var and it works as well.
Yeah, var works. var works too. So the difference between var and let is var is dynamic. So if you're gonna create it, you can keep changing it throughout the code. But with let, it's a constant. So once you set it once, like if you try to change it, you can't change it.
Yeah, but for example, like in a datetime label,
Mhm.
you're using var for elapsed while elapsed doesn't change again. I'm trying to understand why to use let here and not there.
Oh, okay. If this is only, so elapsed does change. Well, as I guess as the function runs every time, but within this block of code it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
within this
redeclared
block of
every
code.
time.
Yeah, it's redeclared. So you could use I believe you could use a let
It's like
here.
for memory.
Yeah, it's
management.
yeah. Most part you could just do var for everything and you'd be okay.
Do you know where the code for the back button is? In case, like, would you be able to attach things to that? Hit the back button?
Totally. So that's something that's like a little bit more advanced, and that goes into these things called delegates. So delegates are basically things that allow you to, they're events. So whenever something happens, you can access the code. So prepare for segue, what we're doing right now, that's like a delegate. Like rather than using the standard prepare for segue that just naturally happens, we're overriding it and we're saying, hey, we want you to do this as well as what you already normally do.
So this prepare for segue, like say we have two views,
Mhm.
click of two buttons, we take to view 1, view. So how does the prepare segue understand?
Which one?
Which one, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Like, there are ways to actually name the segues. So if you had like 10 different buttons, they all go to different view controllers, and you can do that in the storyboard. If you click the segue, like this, you can literally name it with an identifier. And then you could do segue.identifier. If segue.identifier equals show table view or show compose modal, then it'll know which one to use. Yeah. Cool. All right. So now the last part is just to pretty much polish the app. You saw that the table view controller still kind of looks like really basic. So you can change the background by going table view. Background view. So you change the color. Background, not this, and then for the cells, we want to do cell.background color. The clear color is the transparent color. So all I did was I did self.table in the view load. I did self.tableview.background color equals UI color .red color, and then I changed the cell's background color to a clear color. And then now you have like a red, right? But we want to do the table view background image. Okay, so what we did here was we did self.tableview.background view. So that's getting the UI view. And then we're setting that equal to this image view. So remember when you dragged in an image view into the view controller to kind of give it that, that background, the blue background? This is kind of doing the same thing. So we're getting that like background view layer, and then we're setting it to this image view, and then setting that to an image named blur purple, which is in our image assets. This one. So the syntax looks a little weird, but that's kind of how Swift kind of does the arguments. So UI image view needs an image. UI image needs either data, an image data, or something named. So then it knows where to go in its files to get that image. So now when we run it, we can start, stop, and then now we have the purple background. So you probably noticed that the time was, there's a couple things. The time was, it's kind of small. The color wasn't that readable. So you can change a lot of this in the storyboard. If you go to time cell, so if you go to storyboard, click time cell, and then here under style in the attributes inspector, you can change it to basic. Oops. So see how I did right detail, left detail? These are all the different standard types you see in a iOS app. And then there's custom. So now once you do basic, then you can double click the title to change the text, but since we're setting it dynamically, it doesn't really matter. But if you're clicked on it, if it's selected, then you can center it. You can change the font to custom, and you can change the size. You can also change the size of the cells themselves. But let's change the color first to white color. So now you can't see it, but once our code runs, you can see the text. I just clicked this T right here to change the font. Oh, the cell size. I haven't done that yet. Yeah. That's going to be done by clicking the actual cell, and then I think it's like measurements, indentation. Oh, it did? Oh, okay. But I think there it is. Yeah. On the label? I'm on the label. Here we go. So I made this just like 100. So each cell will be 100 in height. But that's also accessible if you go to this measurements tab, size inspector. You can change table view cell row height right here. So you can have a little bit more precision. So again, see how if I make it 250, like this is kind of what like an Instagram post would look like or a Facebook post. Like they would use this amount of space. But we're just going to use 100. And then Command R to run it. There you go. There's a couple things like you'll see this like these insets. So that's like an iOS 7 design type thing. You can change those. You can customize all of that stuff. So rather than this saying 3718, I'm just going to change this to 0. So it doesn't have to change. Or when you first load it, it doesn't say some random number. And then lastly, so I'm going to change the navigation bar. Is it background image? So you notice how the navigation bar has this like white translucent background. I want to change that to something more transparent, similar to what the mockup looked like. So we're just going to choose the top one. So you go self.navigation controller.navigation bar, set background image. And the background image is going to be UI image named. You can check it in image assets. We called it transparent nav bar. For bar metrics, we'll just go UI bar metrics dot default. So for bar metrics, like that's just like a needed property. So you can read more about the different functions and libraries when you hold Alt. It'll tell you a little bit more. So it specifies metrics for appearance. You can do that on pretty much anything. Or you can command click to see the documentation, which is like that. Or to go deeper into the function, kind of see what it does. Alt will show you that pop-up. Hold Alt and then you click it. Yep, Alt click will show you that, and then command click will actually go into the function, so you can see what it does. So now when we run this, we have this really nice transparent nav bar. And it carries over to the purple. Oh, but you see how the color here is blue, right? So we want to change that. So to change the navigation bar color, this is called tint color in iOS. So tint color is almost like a global thing. So any of the buttons in the navigation bar will have that color. So to do that, just go to your navigation controller, click navigation controller, then click navigation bar. and then go to your attributes inspector, and you see tint, how it's blue. That's the default, because you usually have a white translucent navigation bar. And then just change it to white. Oops. This one has opacity. We can just go white color. So make sure you go navigation controller, click navigation bar, and then click size attributes inspector. And that way. For which one?
The background image for the navigation bar.
Yeah. That is here. So any questions? Yeah.
So the time and the caveat all are in black color, like when not using that.
Which one?
The phone details, right? So the time on the phone, that's above the app, so that is in black. So
Oh, okay. The
can we control?
the status bar, right?
Yeah, the status.
You want it to be like white or hidden or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can change that in the settings. I'm going to say it's, let's go to UI bar status.
Okay. Is it an overall app thing or by view controller?
Yeah, you mostly do it by view controller. You can do it in overall app, but you have to do something in the like info p list, which is a little bit out of scope for what we're doing. But there are ways to just do it on a view controller basis.
Yeah. Do that in storyboard.
In storyboard.
Yeah.
You click light color.
If you click the view, there's like status bar. It's
Okay.
default by default, but I think we can make it like content.
Let's see if it does. Sometimes they don't listen to their thing.
Yeah.
So light content. Let's see if it works.
It shows in the preview, but not in the compile.
I have to go feed the meter.
Okay.
How much longer is there here? How much more time should
It's pretty much done. So maybe the next like 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not changing it because sometimes it overrides.
Okay.
Yeah. Like even none. Yeah. It's overridden by something else. Oops. Title is saved times. So you can set the title of any navigation bar by just clicking it in that view controller and just naming it here. So save times is black. Global tint. This is so black. The save time, the title, navigation title bar is not changing colors to white.
It's translucent? Or it's
No, this is the title. So saved. Yeah, I'll show you. Right here. It's weird.
Is it actually on there?
Yeah, it's black.
Oh, found it. It's in the navigation controller.
Uh-huh.
If you go to the navigation bar itself, in the attribute inspector, there's
Yeah.
title color, and it's set to default.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that
Instead of white.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. There you go. So to change the title color, go to the navigation controller, where you change the tint color, but you should see title color up here. So that was set to default, but you have to set it to white. Yeah, so if you go to your view controller, you can just click the nav bar, and it's called navigation item title. So you notice how the lines were kind of like offset. That's like an iOS 7 thing. You can just, if you click the cell, you can just reduce the width to 0. So then your cells don't have the indentation. So it's like just a really like nice line across all the way. Oops. Selection. Custom. Oh, sorry, not the indentation. I meant go back to separator insets underneath indentation, and then click custom, and then change left to 0. Indentation is referring to where the label starts.
How did you change that border color?
Which
The
one?
line color?
At the bottom?
Yeah, on
Or-
each row.
Oh, when I clicked it. When I clicked it, it automatically has that color set as its highlight.
No, sorry, the white line on each row.
On each row?
Separator. Is there a way to change that color?
There should be. These are the separator insets.
Maybe it's just the screen's a little bit lighter. Or mine is like pure white.
Oh, okay. It's probably the screen.
I think that insets is a bug in iOS 8.
It is?
I've never been able to get it to
Because,
work.
okay.
It just defaults that I can't get it below the anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm used to using it through here, but okay. Yeah. Okay. So usually, yeah, separator insets are done here. It should just like change itself again.
I've never been able to get it to work.
Yeah. Cool. And then
You can change separator color in code, but not
right here, right? Is it on the cell?
You can hide it too. It's on the table view.
table view.
On the table view? We'll go self dot table view separator insets, separator color. There you go. UI color. Yeah, here's with color, setting colors. You can just do UI color red, and this is going to give you the like, I forget what it's called, the not the hex, with the RGBA, red, green, alpha, blue, alpha. So here we want to do maybe like a white. Light alpha. This is all like fine-tuning the UI of the app. It's probably hard to see because it's already white. It's maybe if we try a different color. 000 should be black.
You can make it wider too.
Or what? Wider?
You can make it wider. Wider, sorry.
Wider. Oh, change the, yeah. So see how this is black? So we can change what? The separator insets. Went out.
You can change the height of the separator.
Height?
Yeah.
How about the width? Do you know if you're able to change that?
The inset.
Yeah. Inset ads. UI edge insets make is 11. And the default right is 0. Maybe we can do 0, 0, 0.
I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Okay.
We're getting short on time.
Yeah.
Overtime.
Overtime. Cool. So that's, I mean, that's a majority of like how you build something from start to finish in terms of, you know, starting the time, doing a timer, saving it, passing it to another view controller, which is a table view controller, and then being able to use the navigation controller to go back and start your time again, and that will just keep adding it to the array. So all of this is stored like in memory. So the next steps would of course be to connect this to maybe like a database, whether it's on the phone itself. Realm.io is like really, really good at that instead of like core data. So that would be stored on your phone. Or Parse, which is a cloud database where you would store these values in tables, and that allows you to then have these times like not in memory. So they're always in the cloud, you can ask for them and then display them. Which is definitely another like huge scope and block in terms of understanding how this stuff kind of works. But all you would do is you take that data and you'd place your array with that, what you get from those tables. Anyone have any like questions?
When you're done with this, do you want to have to finish that? Do you export it or?
Oh yeah, so what's really cool is if you have a developer account, you can actually do this right now. Well, if you have iOS 8, I believe. That
No, you can run it on iOS 7.
Okay, so
You have a developer license.
yeah, if you have a developer license, all you do is you plug in the lightning bolt cable into your phone and into the computer, and then when you know how we were changing iPhone 5s, iPad in terms of where we want to run, all in the simulator, you just select iOS device, and that will be your phone. So right when you hit compile or play, it will start building it on your phone, and then you'll have apps on your phone like this where they're like these like wireframe type things, because it's just taking that exact file that you made and putting it on your phone. So this is, I really recommend doing this for just prototypes. Even that is just, it's awesome to see what it actually looks like and feels like on your phone.
You may have to change the target to 7.
Yeah.
In the project setting.
Which is this deployment target right here. So rather than 8, you set it to 7. So then, if you're using iOS 7, it knows how to, or it's allowed to read this. Cool. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, some good resources if you like want to continue to get better at Swift. I would say this is where I learned a lot of iOS from. It's guides.thecodepath.com/iOS. And then you go to courses, Introduction to iOS for Designers. That one is designed specifically for people who might be a little bit less technical, and it's very visual. Another good resource is designcode.io, which is Meng To's book. He's also a designer that has recently been doing like really cool stuff with Swift and iOS or Objective-C. And he just released his 4th chapter of the book that goes over Swift and building an app 2 days ago. So this is like probably the newest thing out there in terms of Swift content, specifically by a designer too.
What's like the relationship between, I mean, eventually it's just like everyone going to do everything in Swift, or are they sort of going to work sort of together?
They work together. It's going to be important for them to work together with the old libraries because there's a lot of good stuff that's been built already. And there's actually some cool things built into Xcode and Swift where you can bridge files. So I can use something that's old and still like call it with the functions in Swift. That was specifically made by Apple to accommodate for that. But I'd say probably in the next couple years, like Swift will start becoming the mainstream one as they as it becomes more mature and they build out libraries. And then I'm also working on something called iOS for Designers, and it's going to be guides and videos that are also targeted towards people who are maybe less technical. And the idea is going to be around, again, like there's a lot of intense things that you could be coding, like a custom camera, and going over that to simplify it so you can build your own type of camera or build your own stuff. So those are the 3 that would be really good. And lastly, I would say, like, if you can, try to like build like anything based on what you just learned today, to reinforce this idea of IB outlets, IB actions, messing with variables and building these different screens. Because if you do that, I would say within the next week, it's going to become much more solidified. And then the next time you do it, it's just going to become easier and easier. Whereas if you don't do it for a while, the amount of knowledge you'll retain is going to be not as good. So that's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, we'd be glad to go over them or like talk afterwards.
How hard would it be to format the time so that instead of like just a number, it'd be like minutes and seconds?
Minutes and seconds. It's not too bad. Right now it is with the function.
But you mean like M and S with characters or with a colon? A colon. Yeah, so it should. If you take out the if statement, I think it will format it correctly now.
It's kind of funny. I tried it.
I'm missing a decimal point or something.
Yeah, I have a string here. If you want to take a look. I got it.
Yeah, it's string with format. We'll do that.
Yeah, I would just do.
I probably just messed up the format.
He was like the position of the dot.
So you can either look at the documentation, or I think there's some good ones in Stack Overflow too.
The one that's on GitHub should work, right?
Yeah.
I downloaded that.
Okay.
If you have any questions, feel free to post them to GitHub or open an issue or Jonah will be following that.
Yeah.
Right. So I was wondering one thing. If I want to like create, let's say, a really simple app that tells me like how many minutes I have left to like my next work train.
Yeah.
So I want to get like the minutes from Bart's website and like data have to like manually input them.
Yeah.
Like how do I want to save that? Like a save file or like put them in an array or something?
Yeah. So there's a couple things like.
Because like at this point I'm not.
Are you just gonna store it like hard code it?
Yeah, I'll hard code it because I don't want to like.
Yeah, just do exactly what we did with. But then, are those times set? Do they ever change?
Well, yeah, if there's a delay, they change.
Okay.
I guess I'll just like skip that for now.
Okay. Yeah, literally just hard code those times because let's say every 15 minutes it comes.
Yeah.
I think
And then.
I think we're going to be doing a lot more meetups like this, like product design focused. If you guys have any events or anything else that are like design oriented, we definitely want to be an open space for people to come and work out of. So you can hit us up on Twitter. I'm Jeff Personified, and we can find something. So thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Totally.
Can I give you a question? I didn't get a chance to play online.
Huh? Oh, you're.
I was.
Okay.
Like, yeah, you know.
Sweet. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for the class.
Yeah, for sure.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah, if you have any questions, just like comment on GitHub, send me a tweet.
Cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hard code it. Like let's say if it came every 20 minutes, right? And then I would do NST, like check, like what time is it right now, based on what you learned here. And then if it's within 20 minutes, module is 20 minutes, then list right, how much time I have.
Okay.
Or subtract.
And then how do I want it so that it doesn't, like in the table view controller, it doesn't show me the times for the trains that have passed?
That are passed?
Yeah.
So you just do another if statement based on time now.
Oh,
So
okay.
NST.date gives you the time now. And then you say anything that's less than that, yeah.
What I say don't display? Like, what's the command?
You just say like, yeah, you just say less than. So if it's less than, I would just do like only add to the array if it's greater than.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
So then yeah, you start doing it.
Alright,
So it's a pretty cool app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for hosting this.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, so I mean, like, what's the difference between playgrounds and then working or building the app
The project?
Ivy, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, playgrounds are more a quick way to test things. I personally don't use them as much. I just NSLog a bunch of stuff and just whatever. Like every time I create an IB action, I'm just like NSLog, is it doing this or what do I want it to do? I work a lot in the debugger versus playground is a good way to just try different things
So it's
and
like
see in real
creating
time.
custom views. Is that what playgrounds is for? Or just
You
custom
could.
animation, custom views.
Yeah, it's just yeah. I think it's more for trying things out and see what happens in real time. It's actually especially helpful for game developers too, because they can like change a param and it'll just like automatically. I think that's what they use it for.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that because I started learning like Objective-C and Xcode, and then when Swift came out, I'm like, oh, what is all this?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna dabble in Swift. And
It's good
What's
to
nice
just
is the Cocoa Touch framework. Just
oh my gosh, yeah.
Everything in my head, I'm like, oh, I just use that and use that. Just wire it through.
That's an advantage of knowing Objective-C versus just starting off at pure Swift. Is I mean, we saw with some of the things like I was working on trying to set background. Like you have to remember what the method name was.
That is the toughest part for me, like going through documentation.
And it's changed.
Like,
yeah, it's not all the same in Swift as it was in Objective-C.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like some things which like image name is now named, right?
Yeah.
So there's a couple things until you get used to it. But that's good that you
play around with Swift more. I mean, it just seems easier to work with.
Yeah.
Like just less stuff.
Yeah. Did you find this thing to be like simple enough to follow, or like?
Yeah. It's simple enough to follow. I guess it's just a matter of
understanding more of the Swift syntax. 'Cause I mean, it feels like very Objective-C-ish. Still.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess everyone's still trying to learn it.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, well, let me know if you have like any negative feedback as well, so that we can like continue to improve it. For the
Yeah,
next
I mean,
class.
I'm a part of the meetup, so I'll just look for you.
Yeah, for sure. Send me a note.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope to see you at the next one. We'll probably do like a talk, and then we'll go back to like workshop or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Alright,
I'm Joe, by the way.
Oh, Mike.
Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. I just want to say those really good. I
Really?
learned a lot. Yeah, dude, I learned a lot. Honestly, I was just expecting. I didn't know what to expect, but this was honestly really awesome. So.
That's
No like bad feedback or anything. But programming on iOS for designers, are you like working on it right now?
Yeah.
Do you know what?
So I have a couple ideas around it that I'm still trying to explore, and I actually want to get things out quickly in terms of so I get like feedback on like how to improve it. I think a big thing for me was like iOS 7 and iOS in general is like really mature. It's like 7 years old. It's kind of mature. It took me 2 weeks to do it or something. It's like after like searching all these tutorials, so I feel like why can't and this is I guess I'm like starting to become why can't like designers like do it like, why can't it all be laid out like this way in like such a way that
I went around and counted heads.
there's like a philosophy that like a lot of designers have with makes the event and the current app development is probably like 3 months. And we want to try to bring it down to like 3 hours. So like that's kind of like the mentality we have in terms of good stuff. And like also with like CodePath, that's the way that see like how can you like make it easier and easier for content to be more iOS to learn. Because like you saw, like it's so novel.
But yeah, one of the
there's
core
like
things
half
you
of
guys
it
will probably
like
design
exists. It's
No, this is awesome, man. So I work I work with Adobe, so we like designers are like dying for stuff like this. So we should definitely keep in touch. Like we have a class like every month and stuff, and I think you have like the skills and also like the ability to explain things that like a lot of people can benefit from. So are you on like what's the best way to contact you?
You can just email me through the meetup, or I mean, my email is just like It's all on the meetup itself. But yeah, like I hope that the way I explain things like makes sense to someone who's like
It does.
technical.
Yeah. I struggle a lot with like especially just technical things in general. Like and this was very nicely. Like you didn't assume that we knew like a bunch of stuff. Like it was good, very nicely made. So. Yeah, good job, man.
Sweet.
Awesome.
These
Awesome
3
stuff,
hours.
dude. Yeah. That was cool.
What you can do.
We'll keep in touch, man.
Yeah, for sure. Send me a note.
Alright, man.
Hey.
Awesome work.
Thank you.
Like I feel like I can help with doing stuff. I had a little bit more of a right?
Yeah.
It was just enough to get
It's
where you go.
started. Yeah, you read some tutorials.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Well, thank you. And
awesome.
I didn't actually know how to pay before.
Oh.
I don't have cash. Can I?
Yeah. I don't know what's the account.
You can just PayPal dev@codepath.com. Dev at codepath.com.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thanks.
Cool. I actually didn't. I just saw it through the meetup.com.
Yeah.
And I said yes.
Maybe the figure it to say, it doesn't require.
Joe.
Thanks for the class.
Yeah, thanks.
Pretty good.
Thanks for coming on Saturday.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's dedication right there.
Yeah, I know, right? No, I've been playing a little bit with Xcode for a little bit, but like pretty on and off.
Okay.
Anytime the projects. See, there's a learning curve that seemed a little steep, but I like the way that you approached it.
Thanks. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that was a good starting point. Just sort of defining like controls and games. I think that was kind of interesting. I'm still a little rough on, kind of a little lost in the just basically assigning certain variables and things and understanding when to assign variables to certain elements.
For the IB outlets?
Yeah, the IB
Okay.
outlets, when I do that. But I think if I practice a little bit more, I think I'll
Yeah, totally. Just like I would literally the next week just build a view, drop in a label, drop in a button, control click them both in. So now you're going to see two IB outlets. And then control click in the button again and do an action, and then just like do stuff to it. Like, the most
see what happens.
basic thing, yeah. And it's you're like gonna get it once you do that. And this video is probably gonna be up so you can like rewatch that section and like
understand really quickly what's going on.
And it's super exciting once you like get that part.
Then
Dude,
you're
you're like I can do anything, right? And like, and we haven't even gone to like delegates, which is gonna let you like really leverage the existing stuff. Yeah, take care. It's really cool because just keep building on top of each other. Yeah, so definitely stick with it.
We'll play around.
Awesome.
Cool.
And send me a note if you have any questions or like any feedback, especially like negative feedback is really good because that's the only way we can like really.
The only thing I think, at least personally, what I struggle with is just understanding where everything was. Because it's like it's really all over the place. So I think just understanding because how your tools are placed is kind of critical to working at.
Yeah.
You know, when you're sort of jumping around between main storyboard to code, back to storyboard, and then understanding then Casino, and then like understanding like where you have like what like if you're running something like your table view controller, you want to make changes to that. And understanding where your variables need to sit and what part of the document and like how do this there's things at least for me like understanding like how to sort of like organize the code.
The code?
Yeah. The code
Okay, and understanding the like the layout of Xcode.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just the first time. Yeah.
Completely agree. Yeah, Xcode is like this way confusing interface.
Right.
The first time you jump
Oh,
in,
yeah.
there's a lot of like flat icons. And
it's just like it is.
20 icons.
Yeah, there's like it's a whole bunch of stuff. I think the most confusing thing might have been the sidebar to the right. The element
on the right?
Yeah, the element inspector, because there's like it's got an inspector, but it's got like 6 different things within it, and so understanding
each one has different.
and each of them have like there's hundreds of like options. So you're just basically understanding which are the ones that you need to worry about, and which are the ones you don't really need to care about until you're like.
Okay, that's really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Similar, we were talking about, and this goes off your other point. So it's like, how do you think about the design of the interface, and how do you think about the code itself? You made a point that there were like, and I can't remember the exact context of it, but I think it was the data. Syncing data between your table view and then data itself, and you're like, well, there are these 4 functions that are really important in doing that, and have each of these like different things.
Yes.
I imagine you can map that to most of the different objects that come kind of baked into Xcode.
Yeah.
It's really helpful to understand just like the basic level, like what to expect with the objects that come baked in, like the table view. And like.
Okay, so what are the special properties that come in?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that, and just kind of give it. If I'm assuming they map pretty well to one another across like a bunch of different objects, but like what to expect, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah. With table view, you didn't really. I mean, with view controller, there's not really much because it's like custom. But yeah, table view has like very specific ones.
Yeah, or maybe not. Yeah, maybe not table view, but they could. Like, I feel like we just jumped into functions immediately and objects and everything else. And that like I just didn't. If I could get a higher level view before we jumped into that particular function, so I had some context for that function.
Because you have an idea of like what developers like these designers are starting to look at. Designers are starting to code. Essentially looking to change very specific things that they actually like start building stuff out. So when you're looking like the navigation controller, for instance, like that's the first thing you're gonna look at and be like, okay, well I want to change the color of the save items. I want to change, so like very well that those aesthetic components are the ones that they're gonna grab onto and maybe defining and then defining maybe okay, well this is what you need to know in order to change this.
Yeah.
This is where you need to go in order to change the separator or whatever. Or this is the code you need to know. That makes it a hell of a lot easier for people to be like, oh, okay, so I got it.
Yeah.
And then they can like take those snippets and then start applying it accordingly. Or type it out. And then gradually like understand it and just type it out themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Like a little bit more structure.
Right.
I think mentioned just
Yeah, and I
like
think
design versus like code.
and something as simple as like
Jumping around.
commenting, like by like organizing them by like just commenting, like okay, well, this is where you put everything that's aesthetically. What you were doing to a certain degree because you had all the output stuff, like the space and all that stuff in an area, but it's explicitly commenting and saying, this is the space you just need to put everything that's aesthetic and it's gonna be viable to this particular screen. And then moving on into the functions where you're actually doing stuff.
Yeah.
That makes it all right. I think that would clear it up.
So clear, okay. So yeah, views versus like.
Yeah.
Logic.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. We were just talking about this. We'd love to like help, if you have more meetups or want to do more events like this, definitely. This is, it's great. I mean, we as a company are thinking more towards iOS development, and so this really aligns with what we're doing. And it's great. I was going to ask you about Ming2. Is that Mengto?
Yeah, Mengto. Yeah.
Mengto. Okay, Mengto. Yeah, I've been following his stuff. Would love to. I don't know if did he end up speaking at an event, like a Taco Tuesday event at some point?
I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Lisa.
He actually did our very first event with our meetup too.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was actually help us get it out.
Is he living in SF now, or is he
He just moved
He's in
out
Canada
right
right
now.
now.
Okay.
Yeah. He's gonna travel a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think Swift is good.
Yep.
He's going to do like a road show, all the different workshops in different cities.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's a great idea. I mean, he's done a great job publicizing his book.
Yeah, I was really
the price
excited.
structuring of it is like brilliant. It's like $150 for a finished book that will come out in a couple months or 6 months. But like now, you can buy.
You can buy for like
For
50.
50, and it's like, well, this is just paying for his getting to that book, which is then it's just really sharp.
It's great to see him starting all the in-person events. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, his community is actually pretty awesome too. Like if you go to the Facebook group, like Meng, like I don't know, many people don't know about Meng's like past, but he used to run one of the biggest art communities back in the day. Yeah, like he's pretty good with community stuff. Yeah. So his group of people, like he's always responded. Like if you message him certain things, like ask him any question, like he'll respond.
There aren't a lot of people
compared to like a lot of other people. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to meet you.
Oh, hey, I'm Nathan.
Nathan, nice to meet you. Cool. Yeah. Well.
Thanks for studying the class.
Yeah.
This is great.
Cool. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Yeah.
I just wanted to Christina.
Oh, hey.
We emailed briefly, so I just want to say thank you. Yeah, it was great. So it's really good to just have a good intro.
Yeah.
How does it feel? Like, what were some of the things you liked and didn't like? Just designers perspective.
I think that for me, like, really about admin is seeing how I can probably use it.
But like you can get all your answers, your questions answered.
Like I do one thing, like I just don't care about background, like really like grasp a lot of function stuff, and like there's like some things I can do. I'm not about to become like a full-fledged but I think it's really cool to like know that tool, especially like when I was developer, and even just like getting like
really felt like,
I don't know, like better understanding. So I think it was a really good overview of Xcode and like the things it's capable of. Especially like I thought that was really cool. I got stuck kind of towards the end because I think I missed a part of like the navigation. I think that broke something because I couldn't get to run anymore.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was saying like UI class, like specified or something. Like I got most of it to run, and I just hit a point where it just wasn't running anymore. Yeah, and I was like, I'll fix this later. Like so I just kept like following it, so it was fine. But
what were you guys doing?
I think I just missed
I'm a
it.
creative director at designing, so
Okay, cool. Yeah, debugging is the worst.
Yeah, it spelled out like this really long error thing, and I was like, what is it? I even tried, I was like, alright, maybe if I just type the cell first to just like Google Stack Overflow will help me.
Yeah.
And it kind of did, but I don't think, I tried doing it on my side and
Yeah.
I'll go back into it. The code's up on GitHub or?
Yeah, code's on GitHub.
It's like
So I'll pull it too and compare it.
No, I mean it's hard not to.
Yeah, you can't.
How much would you if I figure it out?
Okay, yeah.
Pretty much
Assuming
doing,
okay, yeah, try doing
the iOS stuff I'm learning for both.
like cool things for prototyping. I just
So I
do
just
like
have an
navigation
understanding
controllers,
of what
and then I'll do just a UI image view. I'll build
But
a
at the
bunch of
same
view
time, also for
controllers,
myself, because I
UI
just
image
like
view, and then make them buttons. just do a huge button, delete all the text so you can't see anything.
Yeah.
So now whenever you click a screen, it goes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's like you just, that's like what Flinto does, kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna say Flinto does that, like submission if you make like.
Yeah, but now you're doing it with like actual code.
Yeah, that you could like potentially like just give to. That's nice. See, I have like storyboarding. They don't have to deal with like changes or colors and things.
Yeah,
They don't want to do or care about. Yeah.
You're like, no, just a little bit more, a little bit more opacity. And they're like, what are you talking about? It looks the same.
It looks fine.
You're like, no. That doesn't even look close.
This is the magic of bridging that gap.
Yeah.
Allowing designers to actually touch the code. It's so great for like us, like engineers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I also think like we've actually seen a lot of designers go from absolutely no programming skills whatsoever to like fully fledged build apps. It just takes like more time, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And there's a hurdle to it. Like we keep that baseline. We run people who have never programmed over 6 weeks. And the first 2 weeks are grueling, right? Like they just have no idea what's going on. But it's like if you just put in like we always say like you just put in 10 hours a week, like 10 hours a week for like 6 weeks, and you'll cross like a threshold. And like at a certain point, it's just like a light goes on. So we see it happen, and it's like fascinating. Like so when that switch happens, it's like it totally changes their perspective on it. So
it's really awesome. I'm primarily a designer, so I've done a lot of web development on my own. So like transitioning to it's totally totally different.
And you know that I
But it's awesome for like having someone just like showing it to you as opposed to like trying to
just like staying in that mind.
Yeah.
So
a whole nother world.
All the little like
basically
dragging and dropping with things moving.
Yeah, I just want you to take
I just see that and like, oh,
Yeah. I hope it was like
it's kind of cool.
like
you
a lot of
like
things
some,
that I would
just
just
have
myself.
Which I think
If you have like a
That's what I'm thinking. How do you do it?
I think this is the future of like I really see like crossing with designers more and more being able to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
It just changes the not even so much just the types of
I think that's like
empathy with engineers.
I mean, I have like
Communication
a little
is so
bit
much
of
easier
like
when
just like
you're doing the same thing. The fact that you even know what viewport is
So running
Yeah.
those
already like
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, so like creating a variable and function arrays, like those are kind of things that I kind of already knew.
Yeah.
So I think if like if you know that, it might
Yeah.
be a
It's
little.
like really frustrating.
Some people do
Like,
like
Yeah, so like, yeah, I did a
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was
it's
thinking also stuff like that. Yeah, so like just knowing all that like is like a big part. Like, oh yeah,
Like, I don't know, I never use, like,
conceptually, like knowing what that
It
is.
just
Yeah.
speaks a little bit. So it's not totally like.
Oh yeah.
Because I
wouldn't even know that works.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just not.
You can see
Yeah,
it.
but I mean some of that syntax is
Yeah.
I mean,
like
yours
so
is probably
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Like which part are you
pretty close.
Oh yeah,
But you
because
certainly
Yeah, it's just like
Yeah, it's
not
definitely
like that.
yeah. There's also the sort of terminology,
like what's going on?
controls
Yeah,
and
so it's
things
good.
and sort of
Yeah.
things like that.
It's always fun.
Before I've been trying to sort of get familiar with some of those prior
I switched
to
from
things like
Okay.
this. So like
Interesting
it
about
wasn't the
it.
first time hearing like navigation control and stuff like that, but that is still like a weird,
way to comment.
yeah, understanding what like those things are. It's definitely like a the constant like, oh yeah, right. What's this thing called?
Yeah.
You had to just
I mean, it's only been like 3 hours
and then
too.
you just
Like,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
kind of
definitely-
crazy, like how much we did in 3 hours.
I know.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I have like main
you feel this-
book, which
yeah.
is great, but also very frustrating.
Yeah, that's I know what you mean. Like chapter 3.
A lot of it. Also,
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah, there's also not like a linear path.
Yeah.
Like, the chapters are barely numbered, really.
Yeah.
There's a very like this weird thing, and also videos don't have sound,
Yeah.
which is
Chapter 4 will hopefully be better.
it's tough. Yeah, following along has been like pretty frustrating, but yeah, it is like I mean, as far as all the other resources out there,
Yeah, of everything.
it's pretty.
It's still the
Yeah,
best thing
it's
out
still-
there.
yeah.
But like,
But it could be.
it's still really like what? Because they'll just like do stuff and be like, yep, and they'll be like, what?
Yeah.
Like following along is not. It's a very like, he says like, oh, look, you just created an app, and I'm like, no, I didn't.
You did.
I watched you make one, but like, I feel like I just did. Yeah, like it really just. But did you take the code class?
Yeah, so I did the design, the one I showed you guys.
I applied for that a bunch of times already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I applied again for the
He's the founder, actually.
Oh, really?
You might want to,
what's up? Hey, I'm Henry.
Hey,
how's it going, man?
Yeah, we're going to be processing the designer. We have a September designer boot camp coming up.
That's
we're going to be looking through all the applications.
Yeah, I applied to like 1 or 2 like before.
Yeah. Well, you applied for like the iOS boot camp. We've only had one iOS designer boot camp so far.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I applied to
that one too.
Which is really tough to get in.
That one's like going on right now.
The iOS engineering.
Yeah. The designer.
Oh, designer one just ended.
Oh right.
So the first one started in June. It just ended.
Yeah, that was the one.
Gotcha. Yeah, we got a bunch of applications for that. We only had 13 slots, so it was tough, man. But yeah, we're gonna try to open it up to more people this time. So
awesome.
We'll see how it
be
goes.
Great. I have emailed Tim Lee.
Yep, he's a co-founder.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And he has said that you guys maybe are gonna do something like sort of like a pre-assignment or something.
We are. Yeah, we're gonna send out a pre-work to people that were eligible for the program, and then we're gonna we'll basically kind of determine who gets accepted based on the pre-work.
Awesome. Yeah. How are you gonna determine who, like what is the criteria?
It's going to be like basically like
awesomeness,
it's going to be the background of the person. So basically, people who have some technical background with JavaScript are going to be preferred over people who have no technical background, just because it's good to have some context for like programming.
Right.
It makes it easier. So there's that. There's the background piece. There's also like the pre-work. We ask people to do the pre-work, and different people put to different levels of effort. So the pre-work is just a simple tip calculator.
Right.
But like some people really spruce it up. Some people, we're looking for people who are playing with it. Not just like there's a video that you can follow, and if you were to follow the video, it works. And some people will just like get it working and they submit. Other people will like taking the time to like add that flair to it, right? And because you guys are designers, we're looking for people who are kind of imbuing it with some creativity. So people who like they send us something that looks like they put in some time playing around. Usually we find that correlates with people who are going to survive the class. It's a tough class. I mean, you can speak to this. I mean, it's not an easy class. It is frustrating, and it requires a certain amount of like resolution to like survive it.
Yeah.
But when you get through it, it's like hugely rewarding. But it's like you have to kind of have faith that you can get over the wall. And so people who are willing to like play around a little more tends to be the ones that we accept. But yeah, so we'll be kind of in contact probably for the next few weeks.
That'd be sweet. Yeah. I have I think I like checkmarked all of those things.
Sweet. Well, then you'll be all set then.
Yeah. I went to, school was, I work right now full time, but I've yet to like work as hard as I did in school in the real world.
I think this class might. No, but I mean, not to scare you away. I mean, it is a lot of work, but at the end, the output is also really amazing.
Yeah, that doesn't scare me. That makes me pumped. That's
awesome.
amazing.
So Henry, right, you said?
Yeah, I'm Henry.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the workshop.
Yeah, that was really cool, really helpful. I mean, like I said, I have my friends book and they've been like kind of, just mess around, and mostly for prototyping more than anything. I'm not like, I know I'm not gonna be an engineer.
Right, but you at least want to be able to like create like prototypes that are really highly.
Yeah, and I'd love to be able. I wouldn't mind also like making some of my own apps that are less, sort of.
I think you can get there.
I think it's actually easier than web in some sense.
And the cool thing about iOS is that prototyping and building real apps, it's not really like, they're not entirely different paths. It's just going deeper into the same path. So like we start people out and we're like, your goal is to prototype, but then as they start to get into it, they realize that like now if you just add a couple extra little layers, like how to get data, now all of a sudden you have prototypes with real data, and then all of a sudden it's like blurring the line of what a prototype is.
Right. Exactly.
So it's kind of cool. I mean, maybe you'll never be like writing like the level of like the maintainability of code of the developer, but like if you're just looking at something working, Like that's totally doable.
And that's the thing is because like I am a designer.
Right.
Exactly. I don't want to like change careers.
But you can also blur that line a little more. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, one because my own, it's just fun and wanting to do it for myself. But also, professionally, like communicating with like developers.
I can tell you firsthand, like it's an amazing thing to talk to
already.
designers.
Yeah. And that's why like I did, I've done a lot of front end stuff. It's just most of the work I do now and started out was like on web, like web apps and stuff like that. And so not knowing how to like write front end code and trying to like communicate and just understanding how things interact and work, it's like it would have been impossible, So like learning that in school was like huge for being able to like design for it. So now like moving on native, a lot of, I guess like, some of the things still apply, but it's just a whole other world,
Yeah, it's really fun. Like
it's also just fun.
Like location, like that's insane. Like the fact you can access location, like do stuff with camera.
Location changes the game too.
Yeah, it's such a different design experience.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been really fun to see designers like climb the hill to get over the hill. It's for that, we were running at Facebook first, so we tested all our curriculum at Facebook. We did like 2 classes there, and then we did a class at YouTube, and then we did the free one in the city. So we've seen like at least 3 or 4 cohorts. The free one that just ended, it went really well. Yeah, so it was actually